Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Voidfallen, The Rituals of Resilience, out January 24th on Noble Demon. The album has 10 tracks, 44 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a Finnish melodic death metal band. Now when it comes to the design of this record, I feel like the album is very straightforward. What I mean by that is that you don't have a design that enhances certain qualities of the album, that makes the overall experience feel more cohesive, that adds to the dynamics and development of the record as a whole. The design of this album could be altered, that the overall experience wouldn't really change. You can move these songs around. The album still is what it is, which is 10 really great songs that kind of have a life of their own and can coexist really well with one another, regardless which one comes first and which one comes last. So it's an album that has some flexibility in terms of how you can present it because of the quality that's intrinsic in these 10 tracks. As far as the sound is concerned, this is definitely an album that shows incredible growth from the debut record to now. And you see that growth across the overall soundscape, but there's definitely elements where that growth is a little bit better defined, and I think those two elements are definitely the more symphonic side of the band and also the guitar playing and the guitar sound in general. As far as the symphonic side of the band, I felt that this record allowed it to be more of a layer. Now there's a song here and there that becomes more of a symphonic death metal song than a melodic death metal song, with some orchestrationals inserted into the track. But overall it's more of a layer that allows the tracks to have two different outcomes depending on where they're placed and depending how much predominance they're going to get in the mix. There's not a single song where you feel like they overwhelm the experience, but there's certain songs where they play more of a key role than others. Now these two effects that the symphonic side of the album has on the record and on the individual tracks is easily seen. On one side, it gives it size, it helps it make the songs feel more robust. There's more texture within these tracks. The other is obviously the melodic side that also brings an inherent darkness with it. This is a very dark sounding album from that perspective. Not that it is cavernous, it just has melody in the right places that brings a somber experience into the forefront and therefore infusing this sense of darkness throughout the entire album. So this is the impact of the orchestrational side of the record, which I think it's a winning formula for me. Because if you want to create a more traditional Finnish melodic death metal sound, you definitely need that piece of the puzzle. But you can't allow that piece of the puzzle to completely undermine everything else. On this record, they found a perfect balance, I would say. Now, the other element that I saw incredible growth from the debut record to now is the guitar sound. The guitar playing on this record is well executed. I love the melodies, I love all the intricacies that the guitar sound is offering throughout the record. The thicker riffs, the more melodic driven ones, a lot of alternating styles and approaches, giving a lot of life and a lot of energy to these songs regardless of how big and how much volume the tracks have. This is something that's very natural for a Finnish melodic death metal band to use and to approach. And on this record, I felt like they crafted in a better way, in a more mature way versus what I saw on the debut record. On the debut record, it felt like it was more trying to showcase everything that you can do without necessarily having as much of a focus on what you wanted out of it. And the guitar sound on this record feels like it's more focused, it's more drilled down, it's more narrow, if you will, in terms of what the overall idea for the track is and then how we go about executing it. Then you have the drum sound that really helps the volume side of the tracks. It helps ground the songs, it helps give it some heaviness, give it some oomph. And when you have a drum sound that doesn't overplay everything else, you give room for those guitars to shine even more, but you also allow on the back end for the tracks to feel very robust. The orchestrational side obviously helps give size, but it's a size that's very thin, it's almost more atmospheric. So having the drums on that same back end, trying to fill in all the gaps in order for that experience to feel a little bit bigger but also a little bit thicker, makes the album feel a lot heavier all around. And I think that's an important element for the band because you're not compromising melody through for heaviness. You want to keep a nice balance of the two so that the album can feel complete across all of the different parameters. When it comes to the vocals, super consistent as far as the heavy, harsh vocals are concerned. There are some clean vocals on this record, but very little clean vocals on the record. I honestly felt like the vocal delivery has been a consistent element of the band from the debut record to now. Nothing's really changed. Perhaps one of the elements that has stayed the most consistent when you compare both albums, and it's always an element that adds aggression, that adds heaviness. But on this case, on this record, because of all of the backdrop, because of the sonic backdrop, it also adds a lot of darkness. And that's an important element for the band, because I think that is something that has become part of their DNA as much as the sound, the overall feel, the overall darkness. That's part of what they present to the listener. I think it's going to be a huge piece of the puzzle going forward for Voidfallen. And this album, like I mentioned earlier, is the second album of the band. I always feel like the second record is perhaps the most important album for any band. You have your whole life to create a debut record, but then you don't have the same amount of time to create a follow-up record. You also have expectations that comes from having a debut album, so you have to balance that, and it's not always easy. The second record is really a make it or break it album for most bands, and I think for Voidfallen, this album takes huge leaps from where the debut record sounded and felt like. So great album by Voidfallen, definitely the band's best record to date. It's only the second, but definitely a huge improvement. That's what you want to see. You want to see huge improvements from record to record, not necessarily taking lateral steps and feeling very comfortable and almost taking an easy way out. They took some gambles, not too many, but they took some gambles, but more so they crafted a better record all around. I think that's where you're going to find the biggest growth. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Threads of Blood. This is the opening track. I love the intro because it has a really nice extended intro, if you will, that it becomes not only the intro to the song, but it becomes the intro to the record. That element is important in my opinion, so perhaps this track and the closing track are the only two that really fall in place perfectly. Everything else you can move around, but this track definitely has that great intro to the record, intro to itself. The orchestrational pieces on this song are weaved in, the drums hit really hard, and all together you're helping define what the size and volume of the song is all about. There are some vocal choirs in this song that helps a little bit of a cinematic experience, and it adds a little bit of flavor. You're going to see something similar throughout the record. So this is a song that has a lot of melody, a lot of heaviness, a lot of darkness, but at the same time, all of the elements that you're going to find throughout the rest of the record are presented in a single song right from the get-go. This track sets the tone and sets the table for what the entire album is going to be all about. One of the best songs of the album. Next we have the original Wound. The drums really lay the groundwork for this track, allowing this menacing riff to just ride over it. And it's a really interesting track from a composition standpoint, because you still have the orchestrational side of the song playing a factor, helping size the song, helping the drums feel even bigger, even fuller. But it's definitely a song that it's not full or robust from start to end. The verses feel a lot thinner. They feel a lot more narrow, a lot more to the point than is when you get to the chorus that the song really balloons. But because the song starts off with that same experience that you're going to get in the chorus, the track almost doesn't feel like it thins out too much, but the verses are definitely a little bit more narrow, and then you have a massive size and super dark chorus. Last but definitely not least, Ritual of Resilience. A more straightforward melodic guitar sound on this song, at times feeling super thin and incredibly narrow. The drums come at a distance, so the drums are not compacted in with the guitar sound. It feels like there's a gap between the two, and then there's this orchestrational layer that kind of weaves itself within that gap, really pushing the two elements even further apart from one another. It's a thinner song all around. It has a robust chorus, and I think that helps give the track a little bit of a punch. But when you look at the track from a sonic point of view, it's definitely more of a symphonic death metal song than it is a melodic death metal song with some orchestrations built into it. It's a nice change of pace. You're using the same elements throughout the record, but here you're allowing some of them to have more of a predominance over the others, allowing the track to kind of feel completely different from those around it. Nice song, really well put together. This is it, Voidfallen with the Rituals of Resilience, out January 24th on Noble Demon. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.